Now,
doing it.
Jake and Sky can go to hell. Let's start out that way.
Flipping tin. All they do is road cruise.
Bunch of hippies and nerds out in the field.
Oh, I like to herb
geeking
barefoot.
out over a worm or like a blind snake.
You shut your mouth on them worm snakes, brother. them fighting words.
Find a southern toad and they piss their pants.
Dude, I damn near piss my pants when I find a southern toad.
I'm kidding.
I know.
Love those guys.
This is becoming a toadtastic podcast. So you watch your mouth.
It is, and I don't know how I feel about it. Toads,
we love toads, just not the people that keep them.
Species, they just don't do much for me, And so when Phil's getting super excited about toads, I'm like, oh.
I know. And then I got a text from a buddy who's probably in the group chat now. He's like, "Hey man, you want anything from Southeast Asia?" And I'm like, "Oh fuck me." It's like, "You got any toads?"
It's like, no, I meant like cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, why do you want amphibians? You're just gonna kill them. Anyway, Snakes and Stogies, episode 196. Did we figure out what we're gonna do for 200 yet?
No.
I know, it's God, seat of our pants.
Every week.
Yep, that's it. Roll them fucking dice.
I think like me and Phil don't even talk that much anymore. Like,
I know.
It's literally Mondays, and it's like, what are we doing? It's like that the band that everyone hates each other, but because it works so well when they're on stage, they put up with one another. And
no, I don't think it's like that. I mean, we're genuinely friends and we genuinely love each other. I just
Phil just don't want to talk to me. He's got like he's got phone calls with Nipper and all his people. My phone.
I don't talk to anybody,
silent.
man. Yeah. Anyway, episode 196. Let's boost the morale a bit.
Just sit around wishing Phil would just give me a call.
Oh my God.
Like, damn. Wish Phil was here.
I didn't know this was going to be a family therapy session here, guys.
There's not enough tissues, guys. The tears just won't stop. They're perpetually falling.
So you bottle them up and you drink them like that Crybaby movie.
What?
Sponsors. Let's talk some sponsors.
Hey. BlackBoxCages.com.
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram. You need a rack. You need a cage. You need both. You need one or the other. It's all good. It's tax time. Spend them dollars. Use the code THN at checkout. Get 10% off your order. If you're in the general Southeast region or in the sort of semi-near vicinity of North Georgia, there's a pickup option. So you can just jet up there, pick up your stuff, drive home, get it unpacked, get it set up, and be the happiest you've ever been because they're some of the best quality stuff money can buy. With a 2-week lead time.
You will be crying from happiness and
those
joy.
Yes, the perpetual tears will be from pure joy.
Pure joy.
It's like when that guy opened the chest in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Before he melted, he was very excited and very happy.
That's true.
And then then I guess he was so overjoyed I
was gonna say
evaporated.
You'll be so elated with your black box enclosure that your face will virtually melt off.
I am too busy making mugs to take phone calls. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. Left field, Silent Hill. Oof.
No, we'll get into that in a second. But blackboxcages.com. Check them out. You won't be disappointed. Great stuff. Also, side note, Chris hatched out a scorpion tail gecko today, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
Those are cool little lizards. Fullviceapparel.com. Also, spend them tax dollars. It's all good. I got some mugs that are on and popping now. Apparently, it's very odd. Use the code THN at checkout on there as well. Get 15% off. That is the exclusive promo code for THN listeners and viewers like you. The fine folks of the Pacific Northwest, Jeff and Kendra, Puget Sound Pythons. Give them a follow on all the socials. Hunt them down on Morph Market. See what they've got cooking. Stay in the loop with what they're going to have available here in the next couple of weeks. And then the best coffee around, cold-blooded caffeine. We got that Snakes and Stogies blend. Look at that.
Why don't you give that bag a little jiggle? Yeah, hear those beans.
Yeah. So I was actually talking to Trey. I may have some to sell at Daytona.
Oh.
I may bring some down, like whole bean, just to have at the table with some of the other Fulvius stuff. This is so I have signed up for Daytona.
Excellent.
I talked to him today to make sure he got the money and stuff, and he's like, I didn't yet. So I was like, great. And I could tell he had zero recollection of the phone call we had like a week prior. So that was nice. But as long as nothing serious happens, I'll be there, and I may have coffee. So
Nice. Are they going to let you sell like bags of it, or are we just going to give out tasters?
I was just gonna buy bags to sell.
Okay.
I mean, hey, if we got the mugs, you got to have something to put in it.
That's true. It's very
But
true.
no, who's gonna have a grinder and stuff? So I don't know. I haven't really decided exactly what I'm gonna do yet. So
Yeah. And they probably will. They'll probably not have a problem with it at the convention because it's not intended for immediate consumption. You know.
yeah, I mean, it's sealed bags.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not selling soft pretzels. If I was, it'd be a hell of a lot better than the ones they got.
Unless you're Eric Burke and you whip out your backpack with your mobile grinder and your portable thermos that actually has a French press inside it. God bless that man.
And Jeff said, I don't need to make mugs. There's plenty of people out there doing it with my designs. That's nice too. What are you smoking tonight?
Tonight, I was gifted a couple sticks from a client that I've never heard of. A client. I've never heard of this company before. It's Cuban Seed. It's Cuban Seed Cigar Co. Okay. And from what I gather, it's a very plain gold foil band with a simplistic, like crossed drumsticks logo, if you will. But from what I gather, this is like what all the like super rich Arab dudes in Saudi and UAE, this is what they smoke. He gave me two. He gave me one that was a green and brown wrapper twist, and then this one,
barber pole.
Yeah, barber pole, and you can't tell it by the camera, but this is a fully green wrapper.
Candela.
Yeah, so it's Corona sized. It smells great. It cut phenomenally. I have no idea what it is. I tried to go on their website. Like I said, it's Cuban Seed Cigar Co. They're out of California, and neither one of those sticks I could find on their website because they did not have a solid green wrapper stick, and they did not have a barber pole stick that was tricolored like the one that I have. Yeah. But every single cigar they had was between $30 and $100.
Jesus.
So I have no idea what this thing is or what the value is, but we're going to smoke it, and I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad you're excited because I decided to go out on a limb. Good old Walgreens brand Blender's Gold in the glass tube, buddy.
What are you doing, bro?
Well, I have a Nica Rustica, but I was like, you know what?
Oh, okay.
I haven't had one of these in like 10 years because I used to work at Walgreens when I first started smoking cigars. And so I was like, let's see how much of a nightmare these are.
Okay.
And for $5, I'm not expecting much.
Hey, it's something.
The tube is cool.
Glass tube drawer is cool.
I don't know what I'll do with it, but I have it.
Yeah. In case you need it.
We'll jump into this. I have the Nica Rustica on deck in case I have to jump ship on this.
Okay. I do think it's hilarious that we have the lowest end and in theory the highest end. So this should be interesting.
It cut all right, so
all right. Well, that's good.
A good start.
That's good. Are you lighting up right now?
Yes.
I was gonna say we are joined tonight by a pair of friends, Herp family guests on our show. These two gentlemen are starting something new, something fresh. In case you haven't heard, they're going to make a new podcast. Guys, that's your cue to say something.
We are. We're brand new on the block with a new podcast.
I was waiting. I didn't know how long the intro was going to be.
Yeah, long pause, insert crickets. Sorry. Yeah. So tonight we're joined by Brenden and Jack. And did you forgive me?
It sounded like you were going to keep going there for a second.
I know. It's been a long day, man. It's Monday. I put out a lot of fires at work today. So I don't hate me, but what's the name of the new podcast?
It's called Beyond the Terrarium.
Beyond the Terrarium. That's right. Do you know when I was making the story for tonight's episode, I kept forgetting the name of the pod. I was like, why do I have to keep going back to my search feature to like, because I have both of your accounts, but like to find that one, I had to keep going back. But Beyond the Terrarium, I love it.
Yeah.
So before we get into the awesomeness, are you guys indulging in any adult vices this evening?
I've got my girly drink here.
Oh, nice. I knew.
Yeah, I was breaking into Miller Lights, and then I just couldn't do that tonight. So all we had left was high noons. Go ahead, Brendan.
I feel like a fraud. I have nothing. I have a zero sugar Dr. Pepper, if that counts.
That's excellent. Excellent. I'm all about the zero. I have a Fiji water with lemonade in it.
This is so bad.
Pink lemonade.
Dude, this is horrible.
What's horrible? The cigar?
The cigar. I can't. It just made me gag.
At least you didn't burn yourself this time, like the.
I didn't. Yeah, I burned
Man up.
At one night. I can't. It's like, let me paint you a picture. Your grandpa had some musty old socks, right? But he decided to put them in the attic for storage, and then he forgot about them for about 10 years. And then someone happened to be cleaning out said attic, pulled them out, rolled it up, and then tried to smoke it. And that's what we have here. This is bad.
For your health.
I don't know how much more.
Nice.
It's rough.
I thought about doing a cigar for the night, but I'd have to post up on my front.
I'm gonna be
porch,
honest.
and I don't know if my neighbors like that very much.
Oh, I can't, dude. Oh my God. Jesus. Ugh.
That good, huh?
That is bad.
Hmm.
How many? I got like 3 puffs in on that. Ugh. Horrible. Horrible.
Oh, we're kicking this one real good. Well, first impressions of this the Cuban Seed Cigar Co. What did you call the green wrapper again?
Candela.
Candela. Now, what is Candela?
Spanish for green.
Oh, okay. But now, isn't a particular type of leaf from part of the plant to keep it green?
No, so it's just not fermented. It's as close to like raw leaf as you can get, really.
Oh, okay.
So those are typically going to be a lot more sort of on the grassy side in terms of flavor. It's not going to be as, what's the word? Sort of as bold or as upfront in terms of just the strength. It's going to be a little mellower.
Okay.
Probably has more. I think those might have more nicotine in them though, because they are so much closer to just the leaf as is without any aging on it or anything like that. But
okay.
not a lot of companies can pull off Candelas. You really don't see a lot of them available, just because they're not super popular. A lot of people don't like that really grassy, like hay flavor. So
yeah,
they're kind of hit or miss.
Well, first impressions, it's burning flawless, like no angles, no canoeing, just perfect. The draw is exquisite. It's kind of tasteless, to be brutally honest, but it has a very, very pronounced cigar smell, if that makes sense. But it's damn near tasteless, which is kind of weird. Maybe I just haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, it might kick in.
And Henry says that candela is Spanish for fire. And Henry would know.
Close.
You're close. I was gonna say Harry was up in the thing. He's like, Verde question mark? Verde question mark? I'm actually a little disappointed in Harry. He didn't put the upside down question mark in front of the V, but that's all right. We won't hold it to him.
Anything new down yonder?
No, man. No news is good news on my end. Critters are critters. And my mangrove propagules that I have been propagating, I should say, are almost to the point where they can go in the fish tank. They're about, the smallest one's probably about 14, 15 inches. So I think maybe towards the end of this week, it might be time to transplant. And I'm excited about that. It's the
Nice.
only green thing I can keep alive.
Very nice.
Mangroves are awesome, man. I'd love to do some of those.
I'm having a lot of fun with them, man. I really am. And all of them came from straight saltwater as a raw propagule. And I converted them straight to fresh. And I really do feel like it took them, at least the older ones I had, it took them a good 4 to 6 months to really get going because they were just in straight freshwater. But the larger ones, the more recent ones I got them. They're huge, man. The biggest propagules I've ever seen. They were like at least a foot long when I got them before they sprouted. And I wound up just taking a 500 mil Fiji bottle, cutting the top off, and just filling the thing with sand just to get it going. And those things, they lit right up. But I feel like they had more time in salt water to kind of do what they're doing before I put them in the sand. And they're like, oh shit, sand, it's time to move. So how do I phrase this? I'm happy that I'm doing straight freshwater, but I imagine if you had a brackish tank, it would make life so much simpler growing them.
Yeah, when I had them, I put them in
Oh yeah, I bet.
with my alligator snapper, and that did not end well. I probably spent like $30, and then like next day they were destroyed. So I need to try them again in a less, a more conducive environment.
Yeah. So you bought them online?
Yeah, just from Amazon.
Okay. And then they came as a already sprouted propagule or just like a legit seed pod?
Just a seed pod. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then how long did it take them to sprout?
They didn't.
Okay.
They got
trampled.
Yeah. He took bites out of them. He ate half of them. So
Really?
yeah.
Oh, that's wild. He's like, oh, this is tubular. I can eat this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, let me move my chair. I'll show you the biggest ones. Hold on.
It looks like a fish.
Close enough.
I still want one, man. I just haven't. That's such a big commitment.
It's the easiest animal I own, though. I'll tell you that.
I believe it.
So
it's about as close to a pet rock as it gets.
Yeah.
These are approximately 6 months old-ish, and these are the fastest growing ones I've ever had.
Yeah, wow.
The Fiji bottle.
Wow, yeah.
He uses it for everything.
Have you been sponsored by Fiji yet? Because you need to be.
No, they won't, dude. They avoid every time I tag them in something. They I'm pretty sure I'm blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got rattlesnakes in our bottles. He's a liability.
So there's some out.
Do you have any light over those, Phil?
No, they get about 2 or 3 hours of natural sunlight every day just because of the way the house is. But the ones upstairs in the fish tank, they have just Fluval brand plant light. Gotcha. So, and they grow phenomenal up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it is super important to use natural sunlight if you can in the early stages, like what these guys are.
Yeah.
But once they get to this size, like indoor plant lighting, I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So I will say this also. I had a bunch of brown algae spikes because I just had the plant light on for too long, and shit happens. And I went up killing the light for like 3-4 days, and I really feel like they did really well having a longer dark period. Just that overcast, cloudy day kind of thing. So I'd leave the light off for, I don't know, 3-4 days at a time. And the only light that would be in there is when I go in there and turn the light on, or just the sun coming through the window that is not anywhere near the fish tank, obviously. And I feel like they're really doing well with the extra shade, if that makes sense. So
interesting.
But yeah, this is these ones are like 6 months old. See?
Yeah, they look good.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys.
Yeah. I want to do them in my Cayman enclosure. I've got a bunch of like planters in the water there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. But I got to get them big enough before
Kevin destroy them.
Yeah. Yeah. All these animals that want to kill things, man. Need some geckos or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can hook you up on that front.
No, I don't. I don't need geckos. Oh man.
Look at that. And putting down the cigar to light up a Camel freaking Crush.
Yeah, man. I gotta let this thing cool down a little bit. It get a little too warm too quick.
Oh, yeah.
Too warm too quick.
Oh, look at that. Dustin Black's here.
Nice. Danny wants to know why it looks like I'm in a closet.
Yeah,
I'm
wants to know why you're in a closet.
I'm on my back patio.
No.
So yes.
Well, you guys are dropping the first episode of the podcast on the 1st.
Yep, this Friday.
Yep.
Okay, cool. What was the original? I mean, how long have you guys been discussing this? Because you guys did a really good job of keeping it under wraps. Because it was a complete surprise to me when I saw it. I was like, "What's that?" And then I was like, "Oh." So, good job on that. Because I don't think I could have done it.
That was tough. That was the worst part.
What was the initial sort of discussion as far as getting that started?
You want to take that, Brendan?
I mean, we've kind of been talking back and forth about it for a while. It was always like one of those things, like in passing, we'd be like, "Oh, we should start a podcast and do something." We didn't know exactly what, and then it would just like get kind of put to the back burner for a while, and then we saw, well, at least I saw Jake and Sky was doing the Flippin' 10 podcast, and I messaged the group chat we have going with like, it's like me, Jack, Chaz, Skylar, all those guys. And I was like, "Yo, we need to start a podcast. Like, it's time." And then no one said anything. And then Jack messaged me and was like, "Yo, let's do it." So I was like, "All right, we're doing it."
Nice.
So it was kind of a thing where we were talking about it a little bit for a while, and then it just like kind of just happened within the past few weeks.
Hell yeah.
That was probably what, a month ago, Brendan?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, probably about a month ago. And I feel like Brendan and I, like, we have these like long form discussions like this anyway, about this specific topic that we want to focus on for our podcast. So we're like, we might as well just put it out there for people to listen to, and have some legitimacy to ask other people to come on and talk to them. I feel like it's easier when you got a podcast. You can say, "Hey, come on here, we'll ask you questions," versus like, "Come join this 3-way call and let's just chat."
Yeah, get roped into this group chat that you're gonna hate in 10 minutes.
Yeah. So I think that's what it mostly was, though, is like we were both like just trying to figure out ways we could learn more and improve what we're doing currently, by having the discussions with each other and then just talking to other people as well. Because I think that we just like bounce ideas off each other a lot, and I think that having that live for people to listen to is good for that other people to get like ideas and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that was my next question. It's going to be a live show, or are you guys pre-recording anything?
Yeah, we're pre-recording.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
You guys are off the cuff live when you're recording.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't want to do too much editing or anything like that.
Yeah, no scripted. No.
Yeah.
It's got to be real. Got to be raw.
Yeah. We want to have like a solid structure for each episode so that we can like get through what we want to get through, but it's definitely not going to be like scripted at all or anything like that.
Yeah.
I like those kinds of podcasts, but we want to have like free flowing thought and stuff.
Organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, both of you have seen sort of the outlines we put together for THP and stuff. And I mean, it's never anything super hardcore, super detailed. It's just a loose structure to that leaves enough room for tangents and follow-up questions and things like that. It seems short when you look at it, but then, we end up nailing the time frame that we're shooting for anyways, pretty much every time. So, I mean, it is nice to have like at least somewhat of an idea of what direction you're wanting certain episodes to go and topics and things covered. So
yeah,
I couldn't do the whole scripted thing. I don't know how people do that. It's just,
I think the best stuff too comes 20 minutes into a tangent, and then you get this this part that you're like, whoa, this is what we were shooting the whole episode for, that we didn't even know we were going for.
Right. I mean, I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter any of the podcasts that we do. I'm like, look, the first 10, 15 minutes, it's kind of fluff, but then it really gets into it, especially if you have a guest, because then the guest gets to warm up a little bit, that everybody loosens up a little bit, and then just the ideas flow and the conversation flows. So
Yeah.
What is
we
the
want it
go
to be like listening into a conversation kind of deal,
yeah, that's how this show started,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just wanted to hang out and talk cool things. So
yeah, and the fact that you guys are very far apart, the same way that Smitty and I are very far apart, and it makes it all the much better.
Yeah. Plus, it gives me an excuse to see Brennan's pretty face every week. That's
that beard, man. That luscious beard. Oh.
Come on, you're gonna make me blush on live screen here.
You can't see it; it's covered in thick black hair.
What's the
we're
plan?
having fun here. It's a good time.
What's the basis of the podcast going to be?
Yeah, we want to focus on like DIY naturalistic care, so like home projects basically that you would do for your reptiles, whether that's like actually building enclosures or like building a tool that you're going to use, or some sort of enrichment item that you're using inside your cage, something like that that anybody can kind of do, but some people have figured out a way to do it way better than everyone else, and kind of trying to unlock the secrets of how they're doing that. So which
is honestly great for me. I'm super duper excited about it, and I know I've picked both your brains before, and I really put the tweezers inside Dustin Gron's head, because he's got some killer enclosures, right? And my biggest problem is not the DIY aspect. It's in my mind, it's going to go one way, and I procrastinate the execution of it, because I'm afraid, okay, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? Well, should I buy these or should I buy those? And I'm like, man, I just spent 2 hours Googling acrylic paints. I just need to just go buy the foam, like let's not, let's pull an invisible cart uphill, with no horses. Right. So I'm excited for that aspect, to kind of give me an idea of where to jump off, so that I'm not perpetually procrastinating and not overthinking everything,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a topic we have already discussed, I think, on the first episode, is like, not just where to find the motivation, but how to deal with it when you're like, I hate everything that I'm doing right now, because that's going to happen. That's like, everyone goes through that. And it, like, even when you're very proud of something at the end, you're going to hate it the entire time you're doing it, because it's hard to see the final vision. But it's like, you almost always end up with something you're happier with than, a blank enclosure anyway. So it's like, you might as well just keep going and then take lessons for it for the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I have a friend I work with who's longtime herper, longtime reptile keeper, and he's totally off the radar. He's not into this stuff, but I sent him both your guys' stuff. I sent him some other people's stuff, and dude, he's making some killer vivs, and everything from carp pythons to dart frogs and cresties and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this with the foam, and then this foam or that foam. And I was like, how do you do it? He goes, well, it took me 4 months. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man. He's like, you can't do it in like a Sunday. Like, it's just not going to happen. And I feel like that's another problem that I have, is in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to allocate 8 hours to do this, and it doesn't get done. I get angry. I throw stuff out. Like, that's another thing that I can't wait to hear your guys' aspect in the future as to how to tackle projects and time management skills. Like, I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
Even with the polychorus build I just did, that background took me, I mean, I worked on it probably 30 minutes to an hour a day for like 2.5 weeks, basically. So it's like, if you have a little bit of time, you can work at it a little bit. You don't have to get so much done at once. Like, you can have your background and get the spray foam on it and let it dry, and then you can just let that chill for a week if you have to. You don't have to really jump, like, as soon as you start it, you don't have to completely finish it that day or the next day, or what I'm saying. So it's very much a trust the process, take your time, get it right kind of deal.
Nice.
And being like, okay, like, you got to have another cage for the animal. Like you can't be like having to put the animal in, tomorrow and trying to make it, like quickly. That's the biggest thing, I think, because if you don't have to put the animal in right away, you got tons of time. You got unlimited time.
Yeah.
But if you got to put it in right away, it makes you rush, and then you're not going to be as happy with it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more people than people realize who say, okay, I'm going to the show this weekend. I know I'm picking up X, Y, and Z. I have this Viv that I just bought, and I've been waiting to build it out because I'm anticipating the species. But then they're like, oh crap, well, it can just live in a deli cup for a couple days, and I'll build it. And it's like, no way, man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Then it's in a deli cup for weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it don't work that way. And it's a lot of people just don't, I guess they just don't realize, like, if you don't jump into it and try, you don't even like realize the process. Like a lot of people are just so overwhelmed with just like you were saying, like, what kind of phone do I use? Do I carve it with a knife? Do I carve it with like a hot wire tool from Amazon? There's so many different options and different like ways to do things. It gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
And they all work too, but I feel like when you tell people that, it stresses them out more. They need like a one way,
They want the tear sheet.
Well, it's the paradox of choice. You give people too many options, they're not going to pick anything. People just I think, like, for me, especially sort of going back to the dart frogs and stuff, when I was doing those builds, it was like, okay, is the great stuff foam what people are using for the most part, or is there a better alternative that I'm just not aware of? So there was a lot of digging and stuff there, but yeah, it's definitely, when there's so many ways people are skinning the cat now, it's tough to know sort of what's trustworthy information and what isn't. So
yeah. And then you'll kick yourself after you do it too, because you're like, oh, I wish I would have done it the other way. Like I've got a carpet python enclosure downstairs that I've probably got 200-300 pounds of concrete in, that I really wish I didn't use concrete before, because now that thing's, I got to use a dolly to move that. But you only learn that from doing it, like you're not going to see a YouTube video or something that's going to tell you it's going to weigh that much, because I wouldn't have done it had I seen that. But hopefully that's what we can get out of the podcast, is like, at least base level, people can kind of learn from the mistakes we've made already.
Sure.
And then, Brenden and I both want to do like projects while we're filming this, so we'll be able to talk about those and like takeaways and stuff from that people will be able to take as well from it.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Very, very excited.
And Mike said, I've always said, if you can see it in your mind's eye, you can build it, which, like I can picture things pretty clearly. Like the Persimmon build I had, like the idea I had for that was pretty clear to me. But for me, it's a technical thing. Like I can see what I want to do with a cage very clearly, but then when it comes to the execution and like the technical aspects of building stuff and putting things together, like that's where I can fall short, and I know for a lot of people, like building cages, if I did that, I would not have a square or level cage, because I'm horrible at math, and I don't, I'm not handy like that.
It's not for us, man. I'm the same way. And like watching you and Jake do Python portals, as simplistic as that is, that's hard, man. You got to measure, like the old adage, like, measure twice, cut once. No, measure 12 times, possibly cut twice. Yeah. So I give you and Jake all the credit for those things, because I remember watching your guys' videos of you guys cutting Python portals, and you openly saying, yeah, we messed this one up, time to go get another one, But I also feel like it's a big difference when you're dealing with a $20 tub that is in theory disposable, opposed to say a 250 or more Exoterra glass enclosure,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the good part is though is you can, if you really mess it up, you can rip it out. You can start over. If it's glass, PVC is a little different depending on how you attach it, but if it's glass, you can rip that shit right.
Yeah. I actually, I've got so many ideas in my mind, and now I'm at the point now where I have the animals I want. I have the enclosure sizes that I want. I'll probably get a couple bigger things as things grow, but it's time to viv it up, I can't do. I just can't do dirt in a water bowl anymore.
Yeah.
Like I morally can't. I visually can't. So
Things have definitely shifted a lot. I think sort of in the beginning, within the last couple of years, it seems like the anti-rack crowd was the loudest, and a lot of people kind of were turned off to what they were trying to get, the point they were trying to get across. And I think over the last 3-ish years or so, people have slowly started to come around more to like what they were saying, because it's not being shoved in your face, aggressively, and you're not being told that you're a horrible human being for using a rack. So I think now, a lot of people are starting to definitely switch it up and shift to more display type enclosures over racks.
Yeah.
And we're definitely not anti-rack at all. Like, I've got a rack, Brendan's got a rack behind him. I just feel like for me, it's like much more enjoyable to go down and like see all my reptiles out, or like at least using their enclosures, versus like having to pull a drawer open and look at them,
Yeah.
It's easier to forget about them too, which is a bad thing to say, I guess. But like,
it's the truth.
Yeah. It's much easier to forget about them when you don't see them every day when you walk in. So,
yeah. I also feel like, and we've talked about this a million times on a million different podcasts, but yes, there's a place for racks and there's a place for Vivs, but it really comes down to species too. So like I've got most of my species I keep, they just don't do well in racks, man. And it's a ventilation thing, Yeah. And it doesn't matter how many air holes you do, you're still going to end up with an issue. And like even my subox, my Trans-Pecos rat snakes, I have them in Rubbermaid tubs with a million air holes, and they're perfectly fine. But if I put them in a drawer, man, it doesn't matter how many air holes I do. It's the fact that it's in that confined, stagnant drawer, So it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And too, with the species specific, I think that's a major thing we want to hit on too, is like talking to people who like specialize in individual species and talking about, like, we call it significant behaviors that the species like exhibits, and how you accommodate that in an enclosure. And, like for a lot of things you can do that very easily in a tub, but for a lot of things you can't. Like, carpet pythons are a great example. Like, they need some height, they got to be able to get up and climb, and that's much harder to do in a rack unless you've got, some big drawers, but it's much easier in a cage. So
I think even on that level, if we're talking species and stuff too, like you're also shooting, you want a species that is going to utilize what you're giving it, and is actually going to be out and about. I mean, there's plenty of species. I mean, even in dart frogs, you can give them a really nice decked out tank, but because that species is just so shy, you're just not going to see them, and it kind of sucks. Like, you hear them all the time, but to see them is like a quick flash, and then they're gone. So I mean, there's some species that, like the Jansenii. I would love to have the Jansenii out on display, but even with a nice sort of bigger setup with a lot of hide options and climbing options, like I very rarely actually see them out and about for longer than 10 seconds. So I don't know. There's some that I feel like it's almost wasted on, because they're just not gonna use. They're not gonna see them a whole lot.
Yeah, it could be individual specific too. Like, I have some carpets who are constantly perching up on their logs, and I have some that I never see. They're just in their hide all day long. So it really just depending on not only the species, but like the individual animal that you have too.
True. And I know it's different now that we have cameras in our rooms. We have cameras in our enclosures. You can hop on the Wi-Fi and see what your critter is doing while you're at work. But I know there's also a lot of animals that when you're not home, they know you're not home, and they're utilizing every inch of that cage, because they know between 9 and 5, the giant hairless monkey's gone. So
and it's not even just like hiding. It's like sometimes, like my Cayman, it's an example of this. Like, he's out when I'm down there, but he's like at the glass, like he wants me to feed him, and he's not like acting naturally. If I wasn't down there, like normally he'd be out roaming around or doing whatever he'd be doing, but I don't get to see that because he's only begging for food when I'm down there. So
he's puppy dogging.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more teeth.
What species and how big?
He's trigonotus.
Okay.
Trigonotus. He's like 3.5, 4, somewhere in between there.
Nice. Is he mellowed out at all or no?
No, God, no. He's yeah, he's a different beast for sure. I love him, but I just don't really mess with him very much unless I have to like move him or something.
Yeah.
Because his teeth have gotten quite large now. So
yeah, man.
Yeah.
I know that bite real well.
Do you?
Yeah. That was one of my worst bites I ever took was from a 3-foot one of them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much the 100 needles in my hand all at once. It was the fact that I had just did a water change and now the entire crystal clear tank is just red with my blood. And I was like, son of a bitch, I got to take him out again. I got to drain the enclosure again. It's like 100 gallons. There we go. Yeah.
Like a shark attack right there.
Yeah. It was so quick and like, it wasn't even that painful, but just the blood. Ugh. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely don't want to get bit by him. I was talking to somebody who got bit and they were like, yeah, it was like $75,000 just for the doctor to come like look at my hand pretty much.
Oh, wow.
Get a hand specialist in. So,
wow. Yeah, no, I got lucky. I got real lucky.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But he's a hands off for sure. But I just put a camera in yesterday. So I get to watch him now when I'm not down there. So
excellent
for that. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So
good stuff.
Yeah.
See, it's so weird that they know that like they have the association of food, but then if you try to do any interaction outside of that, it's a big no.
Yeah.
Like, it's so bizarre that they know that you're the one with the goods. That if you try to do anything outside of that, they just absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like that one pet cat at your cousin's house that, if you stand there, it'll come and like rub on your leg and be all friendly, but the minute you pet it, you get bit. It's like my terms, bitch.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I almost would rather have a caiman that was spunky like that than one that was just overly placid, like some of the ones you see on Instagram where they're just numb to human interaction, which is probably way safer. But at the same time, I feel like they lost a little bit of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also think that it's not really like they're used to you. It's like just over like way too much stress.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they're broken like a Mustang horse. Yeah.
So want them to be as natural as possible versus like
agreed.
Yeah. So
and on the Cayman front, we did a whole episode about Kevin that's going to be coming out also. Like we dove pretty deep on Kevin and his enclosure and everything too. So
nice. Yeah, that's great, guys.
That'll be good considering how many people get into dwarfs.
Oh God, yeah.
It's really troubling to me. There was a local store here that was selling them like they were freaking skills, man. He was selling them like crazy, and I'm like, where are these things going? How long are they even living? Like, just wild.
Not long. I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups for it, and just the questions that get asked in there, you're like, man, like you haven't even like done a single Google search on this other than like Caymans for sale, Yeah. It's bad.
You don't ever see the bigger ones for sale. I think if people saw those and realized what they were getting into, that they would not be getting those things. But when you see them as the tiny little babies, they're adorable. People are all about it.
Yeah.
And the paywall isn't high enough to stop people from impulsively getting one. If anything, they're getting cheaper and cheaper. It seems like by the year.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. I've always wanted some, but it's completely out of the realm of like the scope of space and commitment for me to do that.
Sure.
I'd love to have one. I've been fascinated by them since I was a kid, but it's not in the cards. It's just not.
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking for sure. And I think we talked about this on the last episode of THN or THP I did. But like the difference too between like a trigonotus and a palpebrosus is massive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The trigs are all wild caught, at least with the palpebrosus. You can get them captive bred from a couple places, but the trigs are all wild caught and they get 2 feet bigger, which is a lot of size for a crocodilian. So the difference between the two is huge. So But we talked about that too on the podcast. Is like, if you're going to do it, I recommend don't. But if you're going to do it, I would do a palparosis versus a trigonotus.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, but having an episode like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you can send to people, or you can have that in that group and basically say, if you're getting into these things, here at least is a resource that is like, you've had Kevin for, you know, a while now. It's proven, it's working. Like, do with it what you will.
Yep.
You know, I think that is that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's cool that you're going to talk about larger species with larger enclosures. I feel like, you know, I saw both Mike Stefani and Henry Hendog Martinez are in the group chat, and both of them have large animals and large enclosures. And I haven't chatted to Mike that much about it, but watching Henry build, man, and like not realizing how much money that much ABG mix is, to the point where the dude's making his own by literally the truckload.
Yep.
And it's great that you guys are going to be diving into that and dissecting that. I'm very excited for that too. That's cool, man.
Yeah, I think money.
Yeah, and a big part of it too that I wanted to do was include prices of everything that we do, like, and in the breakdown of the episodes. Like prices of the enclosure, prices of, you know, all the foam we used, or the vines, or the lights, because, you know, me and Jack are both Arcadia freaks, so like Arcadia's not cheap, you know. So like doing a full price breakdown on the episode, so that people realize that you can build these big enclosures for these animals, but it's not cheap, you know. To do it right, you got to spend the money, you know.
For sure.
And it's not like you could go buy something, so you're going to have to build it yourself. Like, if you're getting into something large, like, you got to be able to be handy in order to build something, because you can't just like go get a contractor to come build. I mean, maybe you could, but like trying to explain to him, hey, I'm trying to build an enclosure for a caiman, can you help me out?
And if you do find that one contractor, you better best believe you're going to be paying top dollar, because they are specialists, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I also feel like people forget too about maintenance and upkeep. Like, let's just talk about lights. How long are your Arcadia lights good for? 8 months, a year, maybe? You know, and the days of writing the date on the sticker and sticking it on the ballast, those are long gone, man. You know, so thinking about, okay, how many light bulbs am I going to need to buy for the next 25 years? Right. So
can't make your own light bulbs, unfortunately.
Or do I spend triple the money and buy LEDs?
And even then too, if you're building an enclosure, you have to be an electrician, you have to be a plumber, you know, you have to at least know a little bit. If not, you know, YouTube is like the king of DIY in that aspect. But you gotta, you know, if you don't wire a light right, you can burn your house down. Like, it's very possible.
Absolutely.
But you gotta be careful.
I'm very excited. This is good. This is real good. I'm eager to see all the foam techniques, man. Both spray and cut block, density, like different viscosities of adhesives. Very excited. I found out the hard way that super glue melts styrofoam. So I made one of the coolest rock enclosures ever. I had an afternoon off, and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna whittle. You know, I'm just gonna whittle styrofoam. I got a little X-Acto blade. I'm gonna make these rocks. I'm gonna stack them, and it's gonna be great. And I started super glue, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I was like, wait a minute, why is it smaller? So again, eager to hear tips and the tricks. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, it starts getting that like pus like thing coming out of it. That's like, Well, I think whatever
this was all foam I stole from I guess it was drywall insulation or something, but my work, somebody sent us a box and they used that as like packing material. And I had like a bunch of nice big sheets of it, the blue stuff. And dude, it just like ate through it like acid. I was like, what is happening? crazy. I was at one point, I was like, man, if I ever needed to like make nooks and crannies, I could just droplet super glue and just acid eat it
Let
away.
it eat away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little pockmarked stone, you know?
Yeah. Super glue. The only thing I use super glue for because of that is in aquariums, you can use it like if you put it on cotton balls and like put it in between like a rock and a stick or something, and then fill it with super glue. It like creates like a concrete bond between the two and sticks them together. So that's how I like sink wood.
Really? Look at that. Look at that. You guys are already starting, man. This is great.
It's like completely unbreakable too. It's insane how hard it actually gets.
So you have two pieces of foam, like dense insulation foam, and you take a cotton ball, you put it, but you sandwich it together like a s'more, and then you just coat the cotton ball in super glue.
You might have to dry lock them first for the foam because otherwise it'll melt the foam there. But if you dry lock it, it should work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually have a 1 gallon can of clear dry lock in my snake room in anticipation of building things. Never opened it. It's just covered in dust. Just like one day.
That stuff's not cheap either, man. It's going up in price.
Yeah.
It seems like by the day.
Yeah.
It's so good though.
Yeah, I love it. I use it for everything.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys add colored dye to your dry lock, or are you just doing paint?
Mm-hmm.
So I do the white tintable dry lock, and then you get at like Home Depot, they sell the bottles of the liquid concrete color mix. It's just like a liquid dye, and you just dump that in, mix it up, and then paint it on. And then I do like, so my girlfriend's like an insane artist, so like she's helped me a lot with like all the acrylic paints and like all that crazy stuff I have no idea about. So like this cage we dry locked it, and then I literally had her stand behind me, like tell me, okay, use this color, mix it with this, and like paint it here with the acrylic paints to make it look weathered and stuff. But yeah, definitely the tintable dry lock with the concrete pigment's the way to go.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing too is there's only like 3 colors of the tint. So you kind of, if you're trying to do anything outside of those 3 colors, you got to kind of use paint. But then I usually use paint anyway, just to add like extra like moss or, like white lichen or something on there as well. So I use the paint anyway, but.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
are you guys gonna get into like plants and things like that too, like plant species that you're partial to? And
we love plants. Both of us, I feel like we bonded pretty heavily on that for sure. So Brennan's got like a whole plant jungle collection downstairs.
Yeah, it's become a problem, man. It's like reptiles. You start with one, it's like, oh well, I'll buy another one. I already know how to take care of this one. And then next thing you know, you have plants in your living room and your bathroom and your bedroom, and it's just, it's a lot. But they're cool, they're fun, and it makes the enclosure. Like if you put a nice big pretty plant in there, just like it makes it pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we've got an episode planned to talk about like biotopes generally, and like if it's worth doing that necessarily, because it's kind of hard to get, you've got a very specific group of houseplants that are readily available that you can go to like Lowe's or Home Depot and get, so it makes it a lot harder if you're trying to do biotopes. But that's definitely a whole episode we want to talk about, because I feel like biotopes are huge in the fish community, which Brennan and I are both pretty involved with fish keeping as well. So we get that side of it, but it's a lot harder in the reptile side, just because there's, fish people have plants specifically for fish people. We don't have like plants specifically for reptiles. So it's harder that way, but definitely want to talk plants. We love plants.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a request in because I keep mostly desert species, and I've been trying to look at different succulents and different, thornless species of cacti, and it is hard to keep them alive in a viv, man.
Yeah.
And I see these guys on YouTube that they make these desert vivs, and there's actually one guy who he did a time lapse of like not a straight time lapse, but he did hundreds of videos of his vivarium over the course of like a year, and he went through the season change, and he had like seasonal aquatic copepods that only hatch from their zygote when it rains, and like he made it rain in the enclosure, and like you saw the shit swimming underwater, and then as the temperature rose through summer, all the water dried away and they just disappeared, and then come autumn he made it rain again, and they all came alive again, like doing blue feigning beetles, and puts a scorpion in there, and like cohabbing inverts, and all that was awesome. But it's just keeping succulents alive in a viv, and it's a lot different when you have something like a reptile that's slithering over it or ripping it up or digging it out or unearthing it. So I'm eager for you guys to get some desert plant action in there too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to somebody who knows that.
Yeah, after this, I'll send you guys that video. It's crazy cool, man. It's one of the coolest vivs I've ever seen. At one point, he's like being silly, and the guy puts his adult bearded dragon in there, and the bearded dragon takes up like the whole 10-gallon. And he's like, and now we're going to add a reptile, and like he just puts the beardy in there. It's like obviously it's a gag, like he's not keeping it in there, but still, it's like it's incredible. And talking about soils, and like Smitty and I did a whole substrate episode recently, and like making your own composite soils, and like dude, so much stuff can be bought at Home Depot.
Yeah. Dude, buying the ABG and stuff is just insane. Once I figured out that I could make like a gigantic tub full of that stuff for the same price as one of those little ass bags online, I was like, I'm never buying that stuff again. It's ridiculous.
And I mean, and some of the stuff I'll always buy, like jungle mix, dude. Cocoa fur swag ground up to a pulp. Like I don't have that kind of machinery. I'll just buy the bag, But other things like for my rock rattlesnakes, it's literally Home Depot ground sand, like not play sand. It's like ground potting sand, pea gravel, and like some what do they call it? I think they call it like bedrock stone, which is obviously contradictory, but it's basically landscaping rocks. I bought 2 30-pound bags, and I like that shit's gonna last me decades, know. So yeah.
We definitely want to have a whole episode on dirt, I think, because
you're gonna have a lot of episodes on dirt, my friend.
Dirt.
You get some earthworm people in there, and some soil dudes who like
bonsai.
I really want to try the earthworm thing. I've been looking into it a little bit, but I don't know much about it yet. But it looks cool. And it seems like it would work well.
In a feeble attempt to get Atractaspis stiletto snakes to eat, I put night crawlers in all their enclosures, and needless to say, the snakes did not eat the night crawlers, but they failed at surviving. And I obviously whatever they need to eat and live and survive in soil goes far beyond just potting soil, because every single one I found dead in the water bowl. So they would they would seek out the water bowl, and they would just drown in there. Maybe they can't get out. Maybe I need to make it rain more. I don't know, but they're not springtails. They're not isopods. I've had horrible luck keeping earthworms alive in a dirt vivarium. My box of dirt. So be interested to see other people's aspects on that, and like people that have like worm farms, like an ant farm. How are they doing it? How can we learn from worm farm people?
I got worms.
Harry and Lloyd.
I need to set up a worm farm bad, because I'm buying way too much in worms to feed my turtles. So that would definitely be a cool project to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh, I mean, what are the worm farms? What are they doing to feed and keep theirs?
Yeah.
No idea.
Just
not a clue.
Food waste, probably. A bunch of apple cores and
something.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
I feel like compared to isopods, they're a lot more sensitive, and they need a lot more nutrition, because they're much bigger, and then they've got that gross skin or whatever. So they just take in everything from the outside. So isopods are probably a lot more hardy. So
yeah. For sure.
Still blows my mind that those have become as popular as they have.
It's great though, man. It really is.
Yeah. When did that start? I feel like it wasn't a thing.
maybe like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Something like that. Maybe 2018 was when people really started like selling them. You know, it wasn't just in a vial from a company.
Yeah. I'd
They
love
get
to
pricey too,
yeah.
man.
I've never seen them as anything other than like a utility type
Yeah.
addition, you know. And so when people are spending serious money on like those rubber duckies and things
Yep.
like that, it's like, what is happening?
Yeah. I'd love to
Dude.
talk to the first person who like was like, oh, I'm gonna sell these things and people are gonna want to buy them.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Daytona circa 2018, 2019, there was a isopod dealer who had like these little toy ones
Yeah.
that they had made, these like little roly-poly action figures, and dude, people were buying those.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. But I am happy to see more people using a diversity of invertebrates for their naturalistic enclosures, whether it be feigning beetles or night crawlers or whatever. And you know, I know there's some guys locally that we're putting. We have a local species of centipede that they call it blue ring, but it's super tiny. It's like this little 3-inch long centipede, very small. And they're using those because they're so small that they're not going to hurt the reptile that's living in there. And if it is an invert eater, it may even eat the centipedes. And they're doing something. They're, if not just aerating soil, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like I've got all my reptiles like it's basically a basement, but it's realistically a crawl space. So my house is like on a hill, so it's a crawl space, but it's basically a basement. And because of that, there's like tons of spiders down there, like a lot of them. And I just leave them because they're not going to like bite the reptile as far as I'm concerned, but they're going to take care of, you know, all those annoying flying insects and all that. So I just leave them in there. And I feel like those are something that people always get scared about having in their enclosure, but
yeah,
they're probably good.
Well, I think also a lot of people are afraid of, especially people that live in more urban and suburban communities where there's a lot of spraying because,
Yeah.
you know, we always say don't feed bugs from outside because they could have pesticides or they could have
Yeah.
parasites. And I know that spiders are extremely resilient to pesticide, but they'll keep it on their exoskeleton.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have a gecko ate a wolf spider that happened to crawl in its enclosure and the gecko died. Well, it's not because it ate a wolf spider, it's because that wolf spider probably had raid on it from somebody, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
A little garnish.
Little Cholula on the top.
That's right. What's a species that you guys think should be kept in more natural, like a species that's popular that you think is a better candidate for the naturalistic type setup that people are overlooking?
I got my answer, Brennan. You want to go?
Go ahead. I'm still thinking.
Curious your thoughts too.
I would say carpet pythons. I feel like carpet pythons are like a great display animal that people tend to keep in enclosures that they can't view them properly. But I mean, they'll perch like a green tree, or they'll be on the ground, or whatever. They'll make use of a full enclosure. And I think an animal like that will like fully take advantage of an enclosure is the best candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm gonna go out on a limb with this one a little bit. Baird's rat snakes, and I will tell you why. I have Justin the female you sent me in this 3-foot black box with the red rock background. I don't know if you've seen it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, ever since I put her in there, this snake has like just the activity in the cage. She's all over the place all the time. She's constantly like crawling through the rock crevices. Like, you know, she dug through so I have like a bottom ledge that's like 2 inches off the ground that I have stuffed with sphagnum moss. She is like, went underneath that, built a little cave system that she crawls through. It's so cool, man. She's just, since I put her in there, she's the most active snake in this room now. And it's incredible to see. Just like the natural behaviors of like climbing through the rocks and stuff. It's just cool.
Yeah, those have been on my list to do a setup like that, sort of after
Yeah.
going to West Texas and seeing the rock cuts and things like that. It'd be so cool to set up something, even if it's not even real plants, because some of those I don't think
Yeah.
would work well in actual caging in smaller space like that. But
Right.
something, fake stuff that looks as close to natural as possible, I think it would be really cool. I took some pictures of those rock cuts while I was there, because
Mhm.
at some point I would like to set up something like that and be able to look at those pictures and try and mimic, what I saw as best as possible. But
Yeah.
I definitely agree that any of those sort of rock cut active species, would be a really cool candidate for that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting topic too, is the fake plants. Like, I use a ton of fake plants, and I feel like people start going down this rabbit hole of setting everything up in a naturalistic cage, and they're like, I gotta get rid of the fake plants and put live plants in there. But I mean, if you want to use fake and you get some nice looking ones, it doesn't look any different,
Yeah, I use big fake fern bundles from Walmart for my Jansenii, just because it's a great cheap option to really pack out, pack in there, and visual barriers and stuff. They work great, and they hold up really well.
Yeah. The best
put
fake
me on
plants
to
I've seen. Oh, go ahead, Bryn.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the best fake plants I've seen, and I've got a couple of them, are from IKEA. Actually, they've got they've got really realistic fake plants. So that's where I get mine from.
Yeah, I go to Hobby Lobby, man.
Yep.
And dude, Hobby Lobby has a ton of
We're about to get
stuff
one here. I'm stoked about it.
Yeah, dude, they have so many sales, and dude, I've got all these little, I mean, for lack of a better word, succulents and cacti they cost like $3-4 a piece, which is steep. But dude, you put them under hot water and wash them off with Dawn. You know what I mean? So like, if a snake takes a crap in the flower part of the plant, you just pull it out, wash it off, and shove it back in.
Yeah.
So, and I will say on that note, that is something I did when I was doing fake plants for cresteds, and I was, getting a ton of just fake ivy or something from Amazon. It was coming from like China or whatever. I would soak it in like hot water for a little while, because I noticed like the dyes and stuff would start to leach out. So it got to the point where I just started soaking those and kind of getting rid of as much of that as possible. So pretty much with anything fake now at this point, unless it's like that harder plastic stuff that you get from like PetSmart, I'm definitely gonna soak and try and get as much of that out as I can.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll say this too. I think it's Zoomed and Exoterra just recently started producing some desert flora that is stuff that you won't find at Michael's. You won't find it at the Silk Plant Store, because it's ugly. It's desert weeds, and there's a couple like thorny bush type stuff, and I bought those, and I took they actually come with their own little stone base to them, and you shove them through, but the bottom of the plant is fake roots, because those species, the roots come through the rock crevices and stuff. So I thought that was great. So I actually just I put some super glue in there, shoved it in there, and I'm in the process of building new. They're vivariums, but they're still going to be tubs just for safety reasons, but for the Fields vipers. And dude, I put that base in there, and then I packed excavator clay around it, and I'm going to just dry lock that as its own like little base. And now it's set, and it's plastic. And I could put a couple drops of mineral spirits in there, and the thing it'll dissolve the super glue and just pop right out. If I ever want to replant it or whatever. So I'm happy that I paid like $8 a plant, because it's made by Exoterra, but they look fantastic. And it's a weed from the Negev desert or Egypt that where am I going to find that at a Hobby Lobby? So
or are you even going to find a live version of it?
And I tried that. There's actually there's a plant that I'm probably going to have someone make, just because I think it's super cool. I cannot remember the species name, but it's a thorny, I guess in Hebrew they call it like desert rose or whatever, but it only there we go. It only grows in the Negev desert, and it only grows on this particular type of rock formation because of the way that like the dew rolls off the rock and stuff. But dude, how cool is that?
Oh wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
That would bring a tear to Sting's eye.
Looks like it does.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess they bloom in like September, November, October. I know I said those months backwards, but yeah, and I'm gonna put that in several different, Israeli and Egyptian species that I keep. So I figured they look great. If I could find them or have someone fabricate one, or maybe I could fabricate them after listening to your podcast.
Yeah, man.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
So
do some experimentation.
Phil, I'm curious. I don't know that we've talked about it in previous episodes. Maybe we have, but like your take on keeping venomous in naturalistic setups like that, where maybe it's harder to do maintenance, work with that, whatever species is in there, where you have like rock background type deals with the foams and crevices and stuff. Like, do you think that's, I guess it's completely dependent on the species, but like for me, like with the green trees, as kind of an example, like you can do naturalistic. Personally, I think it's just causing more problems. Like you're asking for more issues by keeping them that way. Do you feel it's a similar thing with venomous?
So it's 1,000% species specific, but it's also keeper specific too, because there are venomous keepers, and I don't want this to come off snooty. I don't want this to come off condescending or elitist in any way. But there are certain venomous keepers who are doing a good job keeping venomous. They're safe, they're professional, but they maybe didn't get as extensive handling training as some other people in our community. And it's not to say that they can't do it. It's to say that they didn't have the venue to learn it, right? Or maybe they didn't know that they could learn it. So for those individual people, I would say maybe steer away from it until you are more savvy with extraction techniques. But I think it's great. If somebody buys a Tremercer species, a Asian green tree viper species of some sort,
Popes.
And they want to, what's that?
A white lip or a Pope's or something.
Yeah, a white lip viper, a Pope's viper, palm vipers, if you will.
Hagenii.
So, well, then that I was actually going to say Hagenii in a negative. So if I've got something like Tremercer's popium, the Pope's viper, they're very much like chondros. They kind of just sit there. Sometimes they will festoon across the vines, and a fairly easy animal to extract with a hook off of its branches. They're not too grabby, if that makes sense, right?
They're not Velcro.
They're not Velcro, but Abalabras, white lips, and Hagenii, the Hagen's tree viper, dude, that's a nightmare. And what we've done is when we had fake plants, vines, and sticks and stuff to make them feel more comfortable, especially with wild caught imports, I'll get the grabbers, the snake grabbers, and I'll just pull decor out, and I'll just wreck that whole cage just to take the snake out. And the snake's the last thing I take out, because if it has anything in there, they're just going to Velcro onto it. Yeah. So you've got two real extremes. And like I said, it comes down to the species and also comes down to the handler. If the handler is not comfortable fishing this animal out with whatever tools they've been provided or that they have at their at their disposal, then that's not good for them. You also got stuff like West African Gaboon Viper. They're gigantic, and they don't give a crap if you have naturalistic Vivaria in there, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I probably would do a really cool backdrop, right? But other than that, leaf litter and a water bowl, done. Because the thing is going to destroy anything I put in there. Any kind of plants, even if it's potted, Henry had mentioned palm trees earlier, because they die really well in vivariums. I had gotten they're dwarf date palms. They only get like 3 feet tall, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try and bonsai it to the best of my ability. And I actually put it in with my my Nubian cobra, and dude, he would intertwine himself through the little palm shoots every single day. That was like his routine. I don't know if he just had an itch he couldn't scratch or what, but from doing that, they just all snapped and fell off. So like even a snake that you wouldn't think would wreck an enclosure like a carpet python, or like a scrub python that's just going to bulldoze over stuff. No, this scrawny little cobra wrecked those palm trees. So It really is. It's species specific, and then it comes down to the keeper and their experience in extracting said animal from the enclosure. I also know myself, and if the enclosure is really, really pretty, I'm going to hold off as much as possible from messing it up. And that means that I'm going to subconsciously neglect the animal, which I don't want to do. Or that means I'm going to have to do double the work to do a normal extraction, which could normally take me 5 seconds where I just scoop the snake out and put it in a container. But now I have to use hemostats and remove this plant first, then that plant, then this log, then that log, and I kept Atheris, African bush vipers, both Chlorecus and Squamigera. I kept them naturalistic for, man, God, it makes me feel old to say a decade, and I'd keep 3 of them. I had like a breeder trio in a TV vision cage, just packed full of fake orchids and moss and vines, and it looked great until I had to take them all out once a week, So it really comes down to the species and the keeper and what the keeper is willing to do or knowledgeable enough to do in that regard, in my opinion. But that being said, not to rant more, dude, all my Viv stuff in my mind, the only ones that are not venomous is like subox. Everything else is venom minded, right? And what I want to do with Cerastes and the Rinkals and my older cobras that are more pet stuff.
Definitely just seems like you'd have to pick and choose your battles on that.
Oh,
front.
sure.
Doing something like that for Cerastes is going to be light years easier than doing that for something like an Insularis or something else.
Well, and see, that's where I might argue that, because an Insularis isn't really going to do anything to the enclosure other than slither through it, while Cerastes are excavators, man. And it never occurred to me to ever do this, because all right, so we see Saharan sand vipers, whether it be Cerastes or Gasparetti or Vipera. We see this species where it nestles itself into the sand, right? It covers its body, and it's, dare I say, less than surface deep, right? So in our enclosures, we put, I don't know, 1 inch or 2 of sand, because that's all it shimmies in. But then I got Tyler Brooks sending me a video from a zoo that's near him, where they had like 10 or 12 inches of sand, and that Cerastes is like a shovel nose, just scooping out sand down to the bottom, 12 inches down.
Wow.
So it makes me wonder.
Moisture and stuff, I'm sure.
Well, and who knows if it was trying to, who knows if it was trying to lay eggs? Who knows if it was just bored and just sick of living in this vivarium and wanted to get out? Who knows? But there are certain traits that we're not going to observe because we don't think to do it. You know what I mean? So one thing I'm going to do in the future is, when I start making better enclosures, I'm going to add way more sand, especially the Cerastes, in hopes that I can get some kind of observation of excavation, And that being said, I almost want to do selected areas for them to excavate. So have some spray foam and dry lock rock type settings that go all the way down to the bottom, but then have almost like islands of loose sand for them to excavate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But then it comes down to how big's your enclosure, how deep is your substrate dam. This video that Tyler sent me is a zoo enclosure. So the whole front glass was, I don't know, 5 feet tall, right? That's not going to happen in my Cambro tubs. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give them 6 to 8 inches of sand and see how that works. But at the same time, now I have to be mindful that I don't have the opposite length in safe distance. Right now the snake is, say, 12 inch, or say 8 inches away from the top of the tub. Now they're going to be 3 inches. So you have to alter your thought process in how you're going to negotiate or tactical the obstacles of safe handling, if that makes sense.
I know there's some, like that tannin bar I had, dude, like there's no way in hell I'd give that thing a naturalistic type of setup with branches and stuff all over the place, because that thing was like glue. If that tail touched it, it was grabbing onto it and it wasn't coming off of it. It was just an absolute nightmare. Even in a simple setup, like getting that thing out of the Cambro tubs and stuff was like a serious chore. It was like getting him back in was just as much of a pain. You know, it's just absolutely not. You know, it just
Yeah.
When I had him, I had one big piece of grapevine in there, and I would coax him onto it, and then just take the whole would stick out. Yeah. So
I'd really like to do something with like Terraria though. It'd be really cool to do a small setup with those or like ring necks.
Yeah.
Really neat.
I kept those decays for a little bit, but I could never get them to eat anything, so I let them go.
Really?
Yeah, they like I was so I got a mom, or I caught a mom, and so I was holding her for a while. I didn't realize she was gravid, and then she gave birth, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll let the mom go and try to start the babies, and then the babies that like finding something that was small enough for them to eat was hard.
Like bloodworms or something tiny.
Yeah, something tiny. Well, I was talking to Connor Wordle about it, and he was like, snails apparently is what they like to eat.
Okay.
Like tiny snails. But of course, when you go looking for snails, you can't find snails.
Right. Yeah.
So I was never able to find any. So you do that first.
Well, on that note too, like those night snakes, man, that Hypsiglena, like I would love to get my hands on some of those eventually. And that's another one that you know, same thing, rock cut type animals. Doing a setup like what Connor's done for some of his is just, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, those are cool snakes.
Very cool. I loved seeing those when we were in Texas, man. That was probably the most common thing we found, and I played with every single freaking one of them, dude. I couldn't get enough of them. I loved them.
That was you with the ring necks when we went herping, though, too.
Yeah.
I love them.
That's awesome. Herping, having more of appreciation when you see these things, and so much more to it than just the pictures, you know.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Phil, you were saying something that was interesting to me about the digging behavior, and we talked earlier about the significant behaviors, but that's going to be like a major theme of our podcast, and like talking to people about specific species, and like
excellent,
really trying to understand, you know, what this animal is going to be doing in the wild. If you're going to just watch this singular animal for the entire day, like what would it be doing, and how can you accommodate that in captivity? And there's so many other behaviors that like we just think about, like eating, basking, sleeping, like, and sometimes we don't even think about sleeping. I feel like people don't think about like where their animal sleeps half the time.
Yeah.
But like, you know, those more in depth, like you talk about a monitor lizard, like hunting, you know, that's probably majority of their day out in the wild. And like, how do you accommodate that and give them a full day of activities that they can separate from the day before? And, you know, note that this is like a different day, you know, and they can have unique experiences in that day and think about life that way. Because otherwise it's just like a prison cell, basically, you know?
Yeah. One of my favorite observations of my own animals that I've ever kept was I had a rock rattlesnake in a basic setup, right? Sand, some rocks, a water bowl, a little rock cave from the, you know, bask on top if he wanted to. And when we were in West Texas, Rob Stone tells me, he's like, yeah, man, the Lepidus and the Lepidus clobberi, they don't ambush up. They don't ambush straight or down like a conventional rattlesnake. They ambush up. And I was like, what are you talking? He goes, yeah, they find a vertical slope. They slither up on it. They coil up in like an S formation on the rock with their face pointing up towards the sky in the hopes that a lizard is going to run past them or run down the rock. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And he says, yeah, you always find them like that. So that's what we're looking for. Well, I came home and my big male rock rattlesnake that was at the time, he was like 15 years old. I had an old, I don't even know if it was Zoomed or whatever, but it was a fiberglass painted stone cave that had a really good slope on it. Excuse me. So I just stuck it in there and I covered it in sand. I threw his poopy sand on top of it. And within like 2 hours, he was in the position facing up the rock.
Wow.
And I had that snake for at least 15 years. I got it as a juvenile. So like it had never seen a rock slope like that, but it just knew this is what I'm supposed to do. And from that point forward, I only fed it when it was like that on top of the rock, just to keep that going. So like little observations like that, man. And who'd have thought? And all I did was change the position of the rock.
That's
Wow,
yeah.
man.
That's gonna be so satisfying to like see it, think about it in the wild, like see it in the wild, and then come back, implement it, and it works.
Yeah,
That's
for
crazy.
sure, man. For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I want more people to experience is like like figuring something out, like researching and figuring out what they're doing, and then implementing it in their own collections and seeing it happen. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's like the most rewarding thing you can do.
Yeah. In my mind, I had these grandiose Applegate style enclosures in mind for my adult ring calls, and just looking at how I'm going to do it. And I bought these plants, and I was going to do it, and I started to procrastinate like we do, right? And I start to overthink everything. Okay, well, if I do it like this is going to happen. If I do it like that, that's going to happen. And I realized that this is one of the instances where the procrastination was actually helpful, because I realized that had I done that, it would have been way harder to extract the animal, especially with something that does not want to be removed and is literally spitting back at you. And then at the same time, I don't think I would get the desired results that I was going for in terms of observation and more naturalistic keeping. So what I wound up realizing is there's more study now than ever before on cryptic basking, and we talk a lot about this. And we even from, hikers walking their dog and they happen to see a loop of rattlesnake rattle coming out of a bush, excuse me, or pine snakes where you can't see the snake except for individual segments of its body that happens to be showing through, and those individual segments are what's getting the warmth through that bush. And I realized that there's a lot of non-intentional observations of wrinkles in grass. So I'm warming temperatures up. Once temps are going to hit summertime temps, I'm just going to go get a bunch of hay, and I'm just going to litter hay all along the inside. And I got to be mindful as to my basking temp, because obviously I don't want a fire. I know 451 is a lot of temperature for a basking light, but you get what I'm saying. Accidents happen. But I'm really interested to see if, with their zebra style pattern, grassland species, are they going to bask on top of it? Are they going to bask underneath it? Are they going to compact it down? And this is in my brain, but it's something as stupid as just throwing hay in there. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I'm excited to hear more from you guys on this podcast, is thinking outside the box on nuances in observation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the goal.
That's like the cat geckos I have. I guess it was a couple months in when I had them. I had a bag of leaf litter, and I just like littered it throughout their cages. And now I notice every single night they all curl up in a leaf and go to sleep. Every single one of them.
Like on top of the leaf?
No, like if I have like a leaf that's folded over, they'll literally crawl inside of the leaf, curl up like a cat, obviously. That's the name. And like sleep. They have their designated leaves that they sleep in.
Wow.
So if I have a pair in a cage, like the one female I had that just laid the eggs like a week ago, the male would sleep in the back corner in a leaf, and she would be right up front. Every single night they'd be in the same leaf.
Wow.
And it's just, if I would have never threw those leaves in there, I would have never seen that.
And I never would have thought, until you just said it, like they are a leaf. You know, they're a leaf-tailed gecko, but thick and plump.
Basically.
So I would have never thought that. I would think leaf litter just as substrate, but no, you have an animal that is probably designed to live in leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
And when you think about them, you think highly arboreal gecko.
Yeah.
So you don't even think they're on the ground ever.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, they're on the ground very often. They ambush food from the ground for the most part. At night, at like 1, 2 in the morning, they'll be up climbing on the branches and stuff. But they do a lot of their stuff on the ground.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm interested to try something as far as keeping, like trying to replicate India or something for this Conicus sand boa. But I also wonder if it'd be a complete waste of time. Because
you never know.
Don't know
man.
if you don't try, though.
Yeah, you gotta give it the options.
It'd be interesting to see if you saw behaviors that you wouldn't normally see, or if it would just be like Yeah, this is exactly how I'd be if I was on Aspen. It'd just be something cool. And then people come in and say, "Oh, what's in that?" And it's like a sand boa. And it's like, "Can I see it?" And it's like, "No, it never comes out." I
Or
see
better
odd
yet,
ones.
yeah, but you could say you're looking right at it.
Yeah.
You know? I think you should really do it up for the sand boa. Because it's a cool niche species that not a lot of people have. Not only
Dude,
people
I
know it
freaking love that
exists.
thing.
Yeah.
Those things are so much cooler than the Kenyans. Like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I've had Kenyans. I've had a handful of them over the years, but
Yeah.
these Conicus, like this dude's neat. I can't help but pull that snake out and just look at it. Like they're so freaking pretty just as is.
Well, and I feel like that's a key. That's a key example of a species where you could have a lot of fun varying substrate, and even if you want to do like the loose sand islands with harder compacted soil around it to kind of see, does it prefer a more loomy, fluffy sand, or so it can burrow itself easier, or does it want something more granulated, more coarse? Like a lot can be learned from just varying substrate with that species.
Yeah.
And then I think also too is every picture we see, it's just eyes coming out of sand. Like the snake doesn't just live in sand. Like it has another aspect to its life. Now you can have an opportunity to observe those other aspects, which never get shown. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do.
To do UV with those to see like what cryptic basking you see out of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and I think that would be a cool experiment.
Yeah, and dude, like, what's the UV index in lower valleys in Kashmir? Like, is it 9.0 or is it only 2?
Right.
Yeah.
I bet it would come out at night. I bet it would come out.
I haven't seen him out at night yet. I've checked, and he seems to pretty much stay.
Throw a leopard gecko and see what happens at night.
That's another thing too, man. I really want to try a naturalistic leopard gecko setup.
Oh yeah, dude.
Just to see, use the excavator clay and like build a cool cave system and stuff.
Yeah,
I think it'd be awesome.
They'll dig caves, man. I had one that dug its own cave out underneath the background, and that was where it lived. I had hides in there and everything for it, but it decided it wanted to build its own, which was
very cool.
Yeah, so cool.
You could do a lot with those that whole sort of family, like cave geckos. It would be cool to set something up and there the Indian fat leopards.
Yeah. Like all those common stuff. Like there's so much that you can do that no one's doing. Like even ball pythons, there's a lot you could do with a naturalistic setup, and they would use it for sure. So
yeah,
like a tree.
Yeah, they would.
I also think a cool topic is varying diet in unconventional prey items. And I made a mistake. I always told myself when I used to keep amii, the Centralian knobtails, I always told myself, I was like, oh, I'm going to get binose geckos and they're parthenogenic. I'm just going to breed them and raise up and get a little colony going to use the babies as feeders for adult amii. And I lost my geckos and I never got binos, and now they're expensive, and it's like, oh my god, you can't spend that much money to feed off the babies. You're crazy. But the idea of having a unconventional varied diet for just enrichment purposes, it's hunting something it doesn't normally hunt. I think that's very interesting too.
And keeping like those animals together with the animal that's going to eventually maybe eat it. It's like like with dart frogs, they eat the springtails and stuff that are in the enclosure with them, but nothing else we keep. Like I mean turtles, you've got like guppies and stuff like that, and they'll eat those as they go. But with like snakes and stuff, no one's really doing that, which I guess there's like a whole ethical side to it, but there's room to experiment there. I'd love to do morning geckos in with my carpet pythons. Because they're small enough that I feel like generally they wouldn't eat them, but if they did eat a couple, it wouldn't make a difference. But Animals at Home just did a cool podcast where they talked about biofeedback with like cohabbing animals, because it was a guy from the fish community, and in fish tanks you've got tons of different species, and these fish are interacting with a ton of different other animals throughout the day, whereas our reptiles, for the most part, especially snakes, it's a single snake in the enclosure with nothing else in there, and they're not interacting with anything else. So it'd be interesting to cohab and see what kind of effect that has. So
our friends Cody and Pia, they have very, very large arboreal venomous enclosures for their mamba collection, and the enclosures are fascinating. They have like a removable tray on the bottom, slider doors in the front. I mean, they're 6 feet by 10 feet or whatever they are. They're huge. They're on casters so they can wheel them around. It's brilliant. And then on the top corner of each enclosure are shift boxes so that they can use them as a nest box or a lay box with an arboreal mamba. But let's say the mamba's in the box, you could just close the door and now it's trapped, and then you can lock it and then remove that box on its own. So what they've done is they're actually cohabbing West African gaboon vipers with West African green mambas.
That's cool.
And they don't care because one doesn't predate on the other. You know what I mean? One's at the bottom, one's at the top. One time they found a gaboon up at the top, and they're like, how the hell did you get up there? But it shimmied its way up there. But now you're talking about 2 snakes that are basically indifferent. You know what I mean? They're not going to predate on each other. They are completely indifferent to each other. One feeds at the bottom, one feeds at the top, so you're not worried about them competing over prey items. Opposed to something like geckos, where they gonna eat each other. It's like the one guy. What the hell was his name? I probably shouldn't say his name, even if I did remember it, because he'd get upset that I said it. He made a naturalistic southwestern enclosure, and he had chuck walls in there. He had collared lizards, and he had geckos. Wow, my mind is escaping me on Coleonyx. Excuse me. Yeah, and Coleonyx disappeared. They're just gone. And then they started to see that the collared lizards started having little nicks on them because the collared lizards would bully the chuckwallas. The chuckwallas ain't gonna take no shit, so they punch back. It's like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't have cohabbing southwestern desert lizards.
Especially that things that like probably fulfill similar niches, where they operate in similar zones. The mambas and the gaboons, they have those together at the Riverbank Zoo. I don't know.
That's cool. That display's been there forever.
So I always go in and see that. To me, that was always like, because I grew up going there, that was like the normal thing you did. But I realized shortly after that that's not normal. So, but I always thought that was the thing. They're from the same area, so it makes sense.
Yeah, in theory, right?
In theory,
in theory, yeah.
I cohabbed my 2 ball pythons together for a while. I had a male and female, and they bred, and I had I removed the male and then let the female like maternally incubate in the enclosure and everything, which was that's awesome. A cool experiment, to do. But I didn't think they would breed just being together all the time, but I guess, I don't know. All my timers are on with the sunrise and sunset, so they get some sort of light cycling going on, and I'm sure some level of temperature cycling. So they bred, but that was a cool experiment.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The only things I've cohabbed are Atheris genus, so African bush vipers, Chlorecus and Squamigera, not interspecies, just same species. And other than making sure that they don't eat the other one's prey as they're eating it and vice versa, they were perfectly fine. Right now I've got reverse sexed Transpecos copperheads together because I'm lazy and don't want to give them their own enclosures. And my biggest problem is feeding, because I'm pretty sure one snake in each enclosure is eating all the food. Because I have one snake that's super healthy, and then the other snake is like not so healthy. So focusing on that is, I think, a very challenging aspect with the cohab when you're not watching. It's not like two geckos in an enclosure where you watch them both eat crickets, you know? So
yeah.
I have the same issue.
Like,
they just
lizards and stuff are a lot easier to cohab than snake.
Yeah,
lizards and geckos for sure. Because you can tongue feed, each one a roach here, Snakes, they see food, they go fucking nutty.
Yeah. Here I am. I got one copperhead sizing up its prey. I got the other copperhead has prey in front of it, but it's watching the movement of the first snake going after the prey. So I'm constantly touching the second snake with a snake hook to revert its attention to where the mouse is. But is it really looking at the mouse or is it just looking at my snake hook tip?
Yeah.
So I got to figure out what I'm gonna do with them.
Yeah, I feed my Nerodia out of a bowl. So, and I've got 3 in an enclosure together. And so I pretty much have to sit there and watch, but then they don't like eating in front of me. So it's a whole, you got to stand like 10 feet back, and try to watch from a distance without moving. And then you get cramps and it's a whole thing.
I gotta do that with the rhinos because I have an adult pair of rhinos together, and feeding them is always stressful because one of them always eats faster than the other one, and then they immediately start looking over at the other one to see what they're doing, and it's just like, okay, we gotta babysit.
Those will eat other snakes too, so like for sure. So gotta watch out for that.
Yeah, and Scott's in the chat. He says, put cardboard between them. Yeah, that's great and smart, but then I still got to stand there and watch them, So, got shit to do.
So interestingly, I'm looking at some Conicus observations on iNat, and there's a lot of, well, not a lot, but a handful of pictures of them sort of ambush positioning themselves outside of existing holes and like rock piles.
Come on, share it. Let's see.
Not necessarily doing the typical Kenyan sand boa kind of thing.
Right. But now, is that because they staged that photo?
No, this looks like as is. Like it's
like
not
in
professional
situ?
photography. It's
Okay.
Someone whipped out their BlackBerry and snapped a picture of it.
Nice. I like your reference of BlackBerry showing the proposed technology of the area.
They're pretty low resolution, so I can only assume it's just old phone. Here's a good one. This one actually took me a minute to figure out what was going on. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's in a hole in the ground.
I was going to say, what the hell are we looking at? It's just rocks.
Yeah.
Just hanging out, waiting.
I still don't see. What am I looking at?
You look, it's right here.
Is that the top of the snake there?
Yeah, it's looking at it's looking overhead.
Yeah, okay, I see.
What?
This is the head and some of the neck right here.
Yeah.
Am I nuts? What?
So it's facing, like its head's facing towards the right, like top down view.
Oh, we're above it. We're not from the side.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, dude, I would have never seen that animal. I would have walked right past it. You can't even see the derpy eyes.
Let me see. There were some other ones.
Yeah. Oh wow, look at that yellow one. Jesus.
Yeah, that one was insane.
Yeah, go back to that yellow one. I didn't know they got like that.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of variation from like the east and west side of the ranges.
Yeah, India, man.
Same thing.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go.
You could definitely do some rock ledges and it would post up in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
It's got the gears turning.
It's crazy how each one of them though looks exactly like the ground it's in.
Oh yeah.
Matches perfect. Well, not that one, but
that's stunning though.
Yeah.
Insane.
Wow.
I think a lot of that's the flash though.
No, but still, I mean, I don't know if it's flash, dude. It looks like someone's just like their headlamp.
Let me see. There was another one that looked like a Angolan.
Wow.
Load, damn it. Here's one eating a bird. That's interesting. I don't know. I'll have to do some more recon on this too and look up Kenyan sandboas and see if there's a similar thing going on with the behaviors there.
Yeah. Go back to the list real quick. Go up a little. Right there, that one in the crack. Yeah, let's see that one. Is that banding or is that shadow?
Maybe they're part lepidus.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they're literally doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah, that is
Yeah, that's
shadows.
insane. He's squeezed in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool, man.
Mine's a
I would have never thought of that.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, you got to do rocks in there, man. You got to.
Well, the nice thing too is it's such a small species. Like they wouldn't need anything massive either.
Yeah. What do you got him in now?
He's just in a 15 quart type size deal, but it's such a cool species,
dude. It's the love child of a Dumeral boa and a Kenyan sand.
Yeah.
and some Russells.
Yeah, some Russells in there.
Little dash of Daboya.
Does it huff and puff like a Daboya?
No, they just do the stupid Jack in the Box, do a backflip bullshit.
Oh, okay.
Freak out for no reason, you know.
Do you know the locality of yours or no?
No. I don't think anybody actually does. Here's another one just with its head sticking out.
Its head. Looks cute there. It's like a dog.
Yeah, man. Little puppy.
It's a very similar thing to the blood pythons where you see the eyes just going nuts and you just know something's coming. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just waiting for it.
Super cool.
Just dumb looking creatures. I'm trying to find that one I was talking about. It's from like the western side of the range.
It's crazy to me that there's this many observations of them.
Yeah. I mean they're really common.
There's a lot of people in India.
Yeah.
Well, there's an observation up in like Afghanistan too, which I thought was interesting.
Definitely eating leopard geckos there.
Oh yeah,
that, dude. Like that's like
insane.
a Brettles and a Angolan and Kenyan had just one massive love child.
Yeah, that's just for the listeners who are driving on their commute to work. That picture we're looking at right now is literally Brettles color, Angolan pattern, and like
Sandboa body.
Yes, not even Samba. It's almost viperish, you know, like a viper boa, Kendoya.
It's very Kendoya-like.
Very Kendoya.
Yeah. So
they go all the way down in.
Oh yeah, they're down in Sri Lanka and everything too.
Oh wow.
They're not an uncommon species. Some of them almost have like a Stimson's look too.
Is yours darker or is it like the lighter ones or?
It's more like the gray concrete with sort of the creamish yellows, with the the darker saddles. I'm sure I can find one similar, but
I wonder if they would make use of like a reach stack or something that they do for like the small monitors.
Sit in those crevices.
Yeah.
Dude, I think if you just had pieces of
see, mine looks kind of more like this, just not as brown.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's very Kendoya.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think if you had pieces of insulation foam that you cut into like flat shale rocks, and just stacked it, that thing would just be living in a rock pile, a foam rock pile.
I wonder if they've got that like spiky tail, right? Like or bumpy.
Yeah, it's like a really heavily keeled. The Kenyans have that too, but
Wonder if they use that as like a shield almost, to like
I've
block.
heard something similar. But I don't know.
That thing's fat, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
dude.
is.
Probably a female.
That one's eating good.
With that crazy Angolan pattern.
Damn.
That's eating large rats on the regular.
Or do you think that thing's just pissed off and it's inflated?
Yeah.
A little bit of both. I think females max out at like 3 feet. Like they're really
Wow.
not big. Yeah, see, that's a western range type too. It'd just be cool, man. It's just neat.
Yeah. Stuff you don't always see.
And I think they're always going to be sort of fringe for the sand boa stuff, just because the Kenyans, now that they come in all the neon colors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But seeing these things in person, man, like it's a gorgeous animal.
Yeah, dude, seeing them on here, man, makes me completely rethink my opinion of them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm
Gotta
excited.
go herping, man.
What I have.
Go herping. You see them in the wild, you like them a lot more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, India's already at the top of my list of places I want to go herp.
Yeah.
Especially Western Ghats, like western side of India. This isn't helping that itch. It's so bizarre how much they look like doomerals with the head color that quickly cuts off. And
it's also interesting to me is I didn't realize their range was so vast. And like all the snakes that you've shown us, they're very glossy looking. And it's supposed to be like the rough scaled sand boa.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was about to say. I lost my train of thought. Like they call them rough scaled sand boas, but in comparison to like the texture of a Kenyan, they're not that different. Like they're really not that rough. The tail, of course, is again like super heavily keeled, but so it's the same way on the Kenyans. I mean, you can see it there.
Yeah.
They're just, I don't know. They're just,
dude, if that head was covered up, I would swear that's an Angolan.
Right?
Yeah.
One of these days, Raj is going to India again for like a month at some point here soon, and be like, dude, take me with you. Hide me on the plane or something.
Hey man, like it'd be cool to have a guy, with friends and family there,
Mm-hmm.
He's in like the north. Originally, he's from like the northeastern part. It's Gujarati. But
wow, look at that.
That's a crazy picture.
Yeah, that's Sri Lanka.
Great photo.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, look at all the rusty reds and
a lot of red
browns.
dirt. I noticed that too. Like if I was going to do it, I'd try and get something similar to that going on. I don't know.
Red crumbly dirt.
The gears are turning, boys.
You said that one's Sri Lanka?
Yeah. Just curious to see if those are, phenotypically significantly different from everything else, as I imagine they would be. I don't even know where this one is. What is this?
It's a rock.
Little tiny face just sitting right there.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, dude.
How do you even see that? That's
That's one of those things you just happen to be looking in those rocks and you just because otherwise you're not seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, Smitty, you got to get some rocks, man.
You have to.
You got it, bro. You're doing this snake a disservice.
Like I could reasonably put that male because he's small and he's a 2018 and he's tiny, and he could go in like a small exo comfortably.
Dude, that's pretty cool, man. That's a pretty cool species.
They're friggin' cool, dude. And I remember Gary Schiavino bred them, and I just for some reason I assumed that they were like a super rare, like hard to come by species. I never really looked into them much, and then I come to find like they're really not that uncommon. There's not a ton of people breeding them, but they're not anything super difficult or anything like that.
What is it like? All the Kenyan guys have like a pair or two on the side.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get from looking around a little bit. But
there's like Kenyans, these, and then there's like a Russian one, right?
Yeah, so there's Saharans. There's a Russian. India has another. In the hobby, I think there's another like 2 species.
Then
it's not a massive group, but it's not tiny either.
Which one is the one that has the eyes on top? I always mess this up.
Which one of those? Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I want to say it's Iranian, right?
Maybe.
And that's why they're so hard to find and expensive, and no one's got them.
Probably.
Someone's going to chime in the group chat. And Scott says that they all just got split in the Middle East, which is becoming more of a realization with a lot of those Near Eastern and Middle Eastern species, Pseudocerastes and such.
Arabian sandboas, yeah,
okay.
That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, so the Arabian is the one with the eyes on top. Okay,
yeah, that's the.
Thank you, Gillen.
Jar Jar Binks looking one.
Yeah.
It's a cool group, and there's not a ton of information out there either. I mean, Warren.
Oh, wow.
Teacher wrote a book on them.
Wow, look at that. That's Arabian.
That's a red.
But is that in Saudi or is that like Oman?
No, that's one of the Indian species.
Oh, it's one of the Indian ones. Oh yeah, look at the eyes. Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
are those in the hobby?
Yeah, they're expensive, but
yeah,
that's so
around.
cool.
And most of the ones that I've seen, like you see the pattern on the tail, like some of the banding on the tail there.
Yeah,
that banding on a lot of the ones I see, like for sale, it goes up the entire body. Like this is the first one I've seen.
That's cool.
It's very uniform in color, but they're almost like the Janai of sandboas. Like they're very similar in terms of the pattern and the color and stuff.
Those bands are like a Bismarck ring python almost.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know which one I like more, the Angolan looking ones or the banded. That's awesome.
Yeah. Better picture of that. Yeah, here's kind of what the more typical look. And that's Eric's John Eye. That's a dead one. That's not what I picked.
Yeah, you clicked the wrong one.
Damn it. Good old INAT, man.
And Mike Gillen says there's a species in Greece as well.
Yes.
Really?
Oh, come on. Load. Do as I say. This is the one I clicked, not the other one. Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, like the faded bands.
Yeah, I think this is a little more typical of what they look like, and I think when they're younger, those bands are much more prominent, and as they get older, they kind of wash out and fade out like that. But
yeah, it has the faded banding of like an Indonesian smooth death adder. Those banded lavis from southeastern Indo.
It's interesting too. Like you can tell their head structure and facial structure is a little different from the others in this genus. Their eyes are much more positioned on the side of the head instead of closer to the top, like you see with some of the others.
And I feel like your type is got probably the most boa head, right? We keep saying how it's very Doomerlish.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that has the most boa-like head.
Yeah, and they've got a really stumpy tail that's like a mimic. They're almost like a shingleback skink in the way that like their tail looks so much like their head.
Yeah, like a Calabar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tail's gross, man.
It does. It's very like Lieutenant Dan Stumpish.
Looks like a bad toenail.
I don't know which species is the ones on Greece, but
So Lisa Farina says that Warren Treacher lives in town where she works. She says she sees him every now and then. And he always has a sand boa in his shirt pocket.
Yeah, he's like the Samboa guy, man. Like he has a book out that's mostly on Kenyans and a lot of the morphs and stuff, but there is some sections on the other species out there. It's another one eating a bird. That's interesting that you see in multiple observations of them with birds in their mouths.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you do produce them, Smitty, you did just get a bunch of quail for.
I did. Not some. That male hasn't eaten for me yet, but from what Kai told me, he's like he goes off food in the winters anyways. So maybe
we'll give those a the tail.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. I mean, that is a really pretty species. I want to say Irwin on one of his episodes, he came across one of these. Because I remember as a kid, they almost look spray painted. Like they have this really just bizarre
airbrush.
Yeah. They're out there. And I mean, they weren't like ungodly expensive. Like we're not talking like, basin emeralds or anything like that. But those have a pretty wide range too. It's like top to bottom India.
Yeah, it looks like they overlap with the other ones.
Yeah. No sightings on Sri Lanka, which is interesting.
And it looks like they're more like centralized, where the other ones looked like they were more towards the coast.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be the case, at least in the southern part of the range.
Yeah.
Southern and northern a little bit. I didn't mean for this to be a rabbit hole we went down. Just there's a lot of cool pictures of rough scales on INAT, and I was like, I don't know what.
And Dalton in the group chat says that javelins are the European one, and that's
right there.
Jaculus.
Jaculus.
They look like ladder rat snakes.
Yeah, very similar.
Guess they're from the same spot.
Like even the eye is like mottled, speckled.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, there's no sand there. It's not digging.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's all freaking rock.
Yeah, dude, you got to change your Viv.
For sure.
Dude, I think every single one we've looked at has been on or near a rock.
Yep.
A big flat rock.
What is that? Where?
Is that like a barrier island?
That's Greece, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Turkey.
Why is it covered in olive oil?
It's like between Greece and Turkey, yeah.
Yeah, good Lord, look at all that. You got them in Tunisia, Morocco.
Whoa. I bet that gets split eventually.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff in Iran and whatnot, dude, I bet you there's a ton going on there, but because nobody's ever getting out there to look around,
yeah,
it's going to be a long time before they do anything there. Georgia, looks like there's a lot.
It's like the Greek tortoises are all from that area too, but now there's like 20 different species or whatever of those, because they're just for each country, it's like a different species. But people have actually done research. Whoa.
I must break you.
Wow.
That's the gopher snake of...
I was going to say yellow anaconda.
Yeah.
Eunectes of Serbia. Wild.
Crazy. Talk about a group of animals I know zero about.
They're so cool, though.
Yeah. I feel like I had a phase where I wanted to get into Kenyan sand boas, and then I had one breeder who was like no, you got to feed the babies live. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm out. Don't want these anymore.
Yeah, I don't plan on going crazy with the
Yeah.
rough scales. I would like to get a female at some point, be it at Daytona or wherever. But it's a cool species, man. I like that fringe stuff that just doesn't get enough love.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dalton has a point too. He said the Indian Sambo species seems to be the most common Indian snake in the hobby, which would not surprise me because there's really not a lot as far as Indian stuff.
Yeah, that's not venomous.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else is venomous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started researching India a ton recently because I got those Indian spotted turtles.
Yeah.
But before that, I knew nothing about it. But now I'm getting all the fish and stuff from there.
There's
And
so many cool species, dude. It's such an overlooked continent, not continent, but
subcontinent
of the herpetoculturally or not herpetoculturally, Jesus, herpetofaunally, if that's even a word. That in China, man, those top of my list.
Yeah.
There's so much cool stuff, and even just from the standpoint of boiga, India has so many species that a lot of people probably don't even know exist that look so badass.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably never see them in the hobby.
I'm sure Henry's going to yell at me for this because he's a big Indian reptile guy, but I think there's over 200 endemic snake species.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm pretty sure it's like 204, 202 endemic snake species.
Dalton said, I want to be stupid and set up a conicus up with a rufalata. That would be interesting. That's the red slate ornamental tarantulas. Which another reason why, I love India, ornamentals, Bacillotharia, man. That's one of the coolest groups of tarantulas out there, and I love it enough to put it on my body permanently. But yeah, Henry said something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
There's so much different habitat there too. It's all you got everything out there.
Yeah,
every bit of it. I would love to go see gharials in the wild. That would be
for sure.
That'd be
For
dope.
sure.
Yeah,
that's one of those species. If you're going out there, you can't not go and see those if you're going to be in country. It's almost a requirement.
Yeah.
I feel like of all the iconic Indian species, as much as I would love to see a spectacled cobra in the wild, I would much rather see a Russell's viper. I feel like it's so much more. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. There's just something about it,
Henry said 350.
350. Wow. There we go. Well, now hold on. Is that species of snake in general, or is that endemic to India specifically? So,
we got to
Russell's viper in somebody's house. That's what you just need to go see all the villages and find it in someone's house.
Yeah, well, no, saw scales, man. Saw scales, Echis, Sucrekai, and
Bungaris and stuff too.
Oh yeah, it'd be fucking great.
Yeah,
and fucking kukris. Oh man,
yeah, kukris,
dude. Oligodon out of India takes the cake. Honestly, Oligodon out of India and Nepal take the freaking cake, man. Dude, you want to see some crazy looking snakes? Go on Naturalist and just type in Oligodon in that region. That southern Himalayan region.
Wild genus, man, with all that weird looking stuff.
Yeah. Henry says 350 in general snake species in India. So
Carinatus in India are complex.
Yeah.
I would love to see ornamentals in the wild too. How cool would that be to see?
Yeah, from 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Obviously you're not going to go up and grab it, but
dude, it's so weird, man. We talk about Russell's viper. Russell's viper is levitating. That's a fucking thing. But Indian ornamentals teleport.
They do.
Legit.
Ornamental period teleport.
Yeah, they teleport, man.
Dude, imagine seeing Subfusca.
It'd be wild.
Oh my god, dude!
Imagine seeing it in your shower while you're naked washing your hair. Get the fuck out of here.
No, thank you.
Just leave with the soap in. Fuck it.
Not oh man, it makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Or honestly, I would love to see Heterometrus swammerdami in the wild.
Yeah,
That would be just to have a scorpion the length of your forearm, like on your forearm. That would be so cool, man. So cool.
Some might say terrifying.
Yeah, I mean they're gentle giants, you know. Unless you're allergic, right?
feasting.
Yeah, unless you're allergic. Yeah.
I will say, Smitty, seeing the scorpions in Georgia was pretty cool. Like,
Yeah,
I've
I
seen a
still
scorpion
got a lot of those.
Yeah, those were pretty cool.
That's a
Yeah.
badass little species, man.
Yeah.
You talking
Never
about the Vahovus or you talking about
Yeah.
Chrysalis?
Vehovis.
Nice. Nice,
Yeah,
man.
to be
I
honest.
still gotta see them, man. Still gotta see them.
They're cool as hell.
Yeah, man. We don't
And
have
no
that
one,
many.
like, no one ever gave him much attention. I know Montross kept him for a while. I remember seeing some people on like arachnoboards years and years and years ago selling them here and there, but it was just never a species that nobody ever paid much attention to. But
Yeah.
I mean, in their defense, there's a ton of species in scorpions, so
Yeah.
Right.
you got a lot of options, and I can see where those would not be terribly high up on the list for some people. But yeah, man, seeing those things flipping that bark and just seeing a little group of them and stuff, it's just, and blacklighting for them too
Yeah.
was really fun. Almost feels like cheating.
Dude, it really is, man.
It's not
It
fair.
really is. And like you find that one good tree stump that somebody cut down for whatever reason and it's just rotted away for a decade. And you get that one snake hook in and you pull it and there's like 8 neon green glowing scorpions.
Yeah.
That's the coolest.
Mm-hmm. The one that I had found on that trip, Smitty, was like 6 feet up in the air. Like it was up on a fallen rock, like going across, which was weird because it was like at your face level. Scorpion in the face, but that was cool.
They're little tanks. John had them everywhere outside his house, around his house outside of Atlanta. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
We don't get them down here on the coast. I think some of the range maps said we did, but I've never seen any signs of them. I've never seen any live ones, dead ones, anything. So
Yeah.
I need to see I gotta go like 2-3 hours north of me and find Hensey,
yeah,
the 3-stripe. I've never seen one.
really.
Yeah, so that's definitely on my list. But
Aren't most of the populations of wild ornamentals supposed to be in the dozens these days? Yeah, I think a lot of them are in really rough shape population wise. That's why they were trying to crack down on them in the pet trade and stuff. Because, so many things are being brought over from India these days.
yeah, right. Well, not to us, but other parts of the world, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when you can drive.
Yeah.
Sure, that's gonna be a hard thing to protect and get like laws around. Is like, oh, we got to protect these spiders, and people are probably not into that.
Well, I don't even think like collection or over collection or anything like that was the issue. It's straight up habitat loss. Like,
Oh, gotcha.
India and Sri Lanka are some of the most heavily populated areas in the world, just in the sheer number of people that live there. That they're running out of freaking room. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Protect the tigers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I saw a dude on Instagram the other day got chased down by one.
Jesus.
Really?
Chased him down, and there was like a big group of people. Like it was like the running of the bulls, but it was a wild tiger, and everyone's just scattering like ants.
Jesus.
And then one guy just happened to be the last one in line, man. And
Jesus.
it got him, and it tackled him, and then I guess people started screaming and running towards it, and so it took off, and the guy just got up, and I'm sure he got all kinds of messed up still, but
Stories for days.
dude,
Yeah.
wild.
Dude, you remember that one time when Jack got mauled by a tiger?
Dude, seeing those things in zoos and forgetting how big they are?
Yeah.
You saw one of those things coming at you full speed. You're gonna tell me you're not gonna just like I'll just lay down and die. Like,
Yeah.
good Lord.
And they make that chuffing sound when you get close. That chuffing is just so ominous, man. Like you feel it in your bones.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Then I see Hector walking around the house, and I'm like, man, if you were like 20 or 50 times bigger, like you'd be terrifying.
He looks at you dead in the eye and goes, I still am terrifying.
Yeah.
Starts bopping you in your sleep.
I was really bigger, I'd eat you.
Has he knocked a mouse mug off the counter yet?
No, thank God. Neither has my child.
Yeah.
Like those things are like freaking gold at this point.
My parents just got back from Australia, and they brought home a bunch of souvenirs, and they got these they're like little they're not beanie babies, but for lack of a better synonym, they're like little beanie baby platypus, but they're magnets for the fridge. And she got them for a couple family members, and they were in a like paper bag, like as a gift shop paper bag, rolled up inside of like a pile of clothes on the dining room table because they're just unpacking everything. One of my parents' cats pulled all the clothes apart, opened the paper bag, and took the platypuses out to go play with them. And it's like, how did they even know that there was a plush toy within all of that? It's like they just know, man. They're watching. The cats are watching.
It's their instincts.
You're right.
They just know.
Well, this is derailed dynamically.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the sand.
But
but
it was still a classic episode. Yeah, man. What's the new podcast name again?
It's called Beyond the Terrarium.
And now, is it? You guys have a Instagram page already made? Go like, follow, share it, subscribe, whatever button you got to click these days. Any YouTube stuff or no?
We will. That's got to get set up this week. I've got to figure out the whole RSS feed link to get posted on Spotify and all that.
Cool.
Yeah, Smitty, I might text you after this. But yeah, so YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the things that'll be coming soon. I think we're probably going to do some YouTube videos, but those will be more like, ad hoc whenever we get the motivation to do that.
Sure.
That's a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
well, it'd be cool if you have if people have things they want you to sort of extrapolate on a little more, and you can actually show them the things, like having videos of questions people asked and showing people that kind of stuff would be really solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if
good.
Well, no, go ahead, Jack.
I was just gonna say, even like if people have like enclosures that they want to like spotlight, like definitely hit us up. We'd love to talk about those live. We'd love to have them on and talk through it. So
hell yeah. And you guys do a great job of this already, but in all of your endeavors, dude, just take pictures of step by step. Like you don't got to do any crazy production value. Like first we start with this, and then just like picture, and then weeks, if not months down the line, when it's done, boom, you got a whole highlight reel.
Yeah.
So
exactly, Brendan does a really good job about that. I'm still on that, but I try. Yeah, with that latest build.
I forget a lot of the steps in between, but I get the gist. You see what's going on.
Yeah.
And just having like a visual aid to talk through it, I think helps a lot. I had to figure out the whole share screen on StreamYard the other day, so that was a fun endeavor. There was a little technical difficulty, but we've got that now. So
nice.
But yeah.
All right. So Beyond the Terrarium on Instagram. What about your personal IGs? You want to give a shout out to those?
Go, Brendan.
Go ahead, Jake. Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, you go.
So BM Exotics on Instagram. That's pretty much the best way to find me. I have like my personal Facebook and stuff, but you want to talk enclosures, reptiles, whatever, Instagram, I'm on it way too much throughout the day. So I'll probably get back to you really quickly. But
yeah, I'm the same. Just Jack Oliver _reptiles on Instagram because I haven't figured out a better name than that. So that's where we're at. And then Facebook's the same. Like, feel free to add me. I'm on there more now just because I feel like a lot of the turtle people are on there. So I do that a lot more now, but mostly Instagram. So if you want to talk anything, just hit me up. Put me and Brennan in a group chat. We'll talk to you for days.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'm down.
Or just message me on the Terrarium. We're both on there, so we can both respond like that. So
hell yeah.
Yeah. We're super stoked about it. I really appreciate y'all having us on to talk about it.
Of course.
Yeah, man.
The go live went pretty well, so I'm stoked on it.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of people are excited. I mean, they're saying in the comments, I've seen from multiple people are really, really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
So,
yeah, we got a lot of positive feedback for not even having an episode out yet. So we're stoked, dude. It's awesome.
Hell yeah.
I feel like it's a good niche that people aren't. I mean, people talk about it, but not in depth, So
yeah,
have to focus on it. So.
Yeah, man. And you guys have enough experience to just rock and roll.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like we're both very much of the mindset of like we're not experts at all. We're just doing things, and so we want to talk to people who we do consider experts to actually tell people how to do things. We're just a couple of dudes with some drills and some knives cutting foam. So yeah.
And we do have already some pretty insane guests lined up that we're super stoked on. So within the next few weeks, those will be recorded and coming out too. So
what's the release
stuff coming, man?
What's the release schedule going to be like? How often are you guys are you planning to drop episodes?
Yeah, I think
we're weekly, right?
Yeah, weekly every Friday. It's going to be the goal. So see how that goes, but that's the plan for now.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Cool, man.
We're looking forward to it.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. You need a rack, you need a cage. Put something in the checkout, then put in the code THN at checkout. Get 10% off your order. Then head over to FullViewsApparel.com. Also use the code THN. Get 15% off your order. That is the exclusive promo code for THN listeners and viewers like you. Puget Sound Pythons, Jeff and Kendra. Follow them on all the socials. Follow them Morph Market, Puget Sound Pythons. And then Cold Blooded Caffeine. Best coffee you can buy. Get you some. Get the Snakes and Stogies blend. Get into the other affiliate blends. Get some of their signature blends. You're going to be happy regardless. It's damn good coffee. We didn't have THP last week. I don't remember why. Something came up. I had a dinner thing. But Corn Stars is supposed to be happening this week. I thought it was last week. I got my schedule mixed up. So this week that's when that's happening. So we'll be back Thursday. And we will see everybody later.
Bye.